Please join me in welcoming Secretary Rubio, Foreign Minister Wagner, and Foreign Minister Nduhungirehe. Secretary Rubio, Foreign Minister Wagner, Foreign Minister Nduhungirehe, Minister of State Al-Khulaifi, African Union Chairperson Yusuf, Foreign Minister Ducey, ambassadors, members of Congress, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining for the historic signing of a comprehensive peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. In a moment, Secretary Rubio and the foreign ministers of the DRC and Rwanda will sign an agreement that builds on the Declaration of Principles signed here on April 25th. With their signatures, the peace agreement will enter into force, bringing an end to a 30-year conflict and setting both countries and their people on a path towards peace and prosperity. This would not be possible without the leadership and vision of President Trump. He has made peace a priority of his administration, and we have taken up his call to find a peaceful resolution to this conflict. I would like to recognize the tireless work that both foreign ministers and their teams put into reaching this agreement. I would also like to recognize the partnership from the government of Qatar, who is driving towards a parallel agreement between the government of the DRC and the M23 armed group. In addition, I would like to acknowledge that the work done under the auspices of the African Union was critical for reaching this agreement. We look forward to coordinating with the AU chairperson and Togolese president, who is serving as the AU facilitator to ensure implementation of the agreement. Finally, I would like to recognize the team here at the Department of State who facilitated the discussions and helped guide both sides towards this agreement. I will now turn to Secretary Rubio for opening remarks.
Thank you, and I'm honored all of you are here today. I'm honored to be joined by my counterparts from the Democratic Republic of Congo and from Rwanda, and the hard work you both put in to make this happen. This was not easy. And there's still work to be done, obviously, in terms of implementation, but we're very honored you're both here, and it's been an honor to work with both of you. We have a lot of people to thank. Obviously, the great team here at the Department of State who did a great job, Mr. Bulos, who did a phenomenal job. He's been on the job now about 10 weeks, and he's jumped all over this and really worked it hard, and you did a great job, and we are grateful to you for all of your work. Obviously, this could not have happened without such close friends and partners in the African Union and in Qatar, who we're working a lot lately with Qatar. We're doing a lot of things with you guys, and you've been very instrumental in the African Union. Without you, this couldn't have happened. I mean, you may put everybody together. I do want to recognize what I say, former colleagues. It wasn't 6 months ago, I was still a senator, but they're here now, Senators Rounds and Risch. Senator Risch is the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and a very close friend of mine, and he's obviously watched this issue very closely. He's made it a priority. And Senator Rounds, who's been talking to me about this before I was even nominated to the position and even during the nomination process. And we have others who are not able to make it today that I also want to recognize, Senator Coons and Booker. There's been a lot of interest in this, and we're grateful to all of them. They were invited, but I guess, you know, there's stuff going on in the Senate, as you know. And, but we're grateful that both of you are here, and it's instrumental. This is, you know, an important moment after 30 years of war. President Trump is a president of peace. He really does want peace. He prioritizes it above all else. We saw his intervention in the conflict between India and Pakistan. We saw his intervention most recently as a few days ago in a very dangerous war, right? A very dangerous war that could have really spiraled out of control, and his intervention made that possible. And there are other places that we want to see this, but we're very excited about this, and we can't wait to have the heads of state, the presidents of the respective countries here in Washington in a few weeks to finalize the complete protocol and agreement. But today is an important step in that direction, and we're grateful to be able to host it here at the Department of State. And just thinking, we think sometimes about peace. It's not just about ending wars. It's not just about saving lives. It's about allowing people to live. It's about allowing people to now have dreams and hopes for a better life, for prosperity, for economic opportunity, for family reunification, for all the things that make life worth living. Those things become impossible when there's war and when there's conflict. So we're grateful to have played the role we've played. We acknowledge and recognize there's still more work to be done. But we thank you all very much for being a part of this historic and important day. This is really why I wanted this job, or why I embraced this job so much, is moments like this. This is, in essence, the Department of State is really the Department of Peace. It's designed to bring people together, both in our relations with other countries, but to the extent we can use the stature and the influence of the United States to bring others together. It makes the world a better place. And I honestly believe that when there's peace in the world among friends who may have disagreements and conflict, it does help America. It does help make America stronger and safer and more prosperous. It gives us partners we can do business with. And partners that we can work with to address insecurity and threats to our national security and to our collective national security. So we are grateful to both of you. I know how hard this was and how much work went into it, and we know there's more work to be done. But we are grateful to have you here today. We're honored to be a part of this. We're excited to be a part of it. And again, I do want to thank everyone here in our Africa Bureau and at the Department of State. And once again, our superstar there, Mr. Bulos. What do you want to do next after you're done with this? Sudan. Yeah, very important. Actually, very, very important. And you're very involved in that as well. So what are you guys doing this week in Qatar? You guys want to work a little? We are grateful to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of Rwanda for remarks.
Thank you. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Minister Therese Kaikwamba-Wagner, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mahmoud Yusuf, Minister of State Mohamed Ali Khulaifi of Qatar, my colleague, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Togo, Robert Dussé, senators, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Let me begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to President Donald Trump for his personal engagement in facilitating this historic agreement. We also extend our gratitude to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Special Advisor Massad Boulos, and the entire State Department team. Your dedication has been indispensable. This agreement is the product of months of coordinated efforts by multiple actors. It is very important to note that the state of Qatar has played an absolutely central role. Indeed, the opening, which led to today's agreement, began in Doha. We will lend our full support in the weeks ahead to Qatar's mediation efforts, led by Minister of State Mohamed Al Khulaifi, to secure a peace agreement between the DRC government and the AFC M23. This process is already well underway. Today's agreement also builds on the African-led peace initiatives, which are ably led by the African Union facilitator, President Faure Gnassingbé of Togo. The heart of this peace agreement is the decision to establish a standing joint security coordination mechanism between DRC and Rwanda. The first order of business is to begin implementing of the concept of operations for the neutralization of the FDLR, to be accompanied by a lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. This is grounded in the commitment made here for an irreversible and verifiable end to state support for FDLR and associated militias. That is the bedrock of peace and security in our region. FDLR is no ordinary militia. It is the remnant of the forces which committed the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, in which 1 million people were killed. With this agreement, we also committed to facilitate the return of refugees in our respective territories with the support of the UNHCR. Creating the conditions for the safe and dignified return of refugees is vital to achieve lasting peace. We also took to enhance economic cooperation, including with American companies and investors. Shared growth and cross-border cooperation will unlock tangible dividends for both our countries. We must acknowledge that there is a great deal of uncertainty in our region and beyond, because many previous agreements have not been implemented, and there is no doubt that the road ahead will not be easy. But with the continued support of the United States and other partners, we believe that a turning point has been reached. Rwanda stands ready to work with the DRC to deliver on our joint commitments. To conclude, allow me to once again express Rwanda's appreciation to all who have contributed to this milestone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Mr. Secretary of State, the Honorable Senator Marco Rubio, Dr. Massad Boulos, Senior Advisor for African Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mr. Olivier Nduhungirehe, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Dr. Mohamed bin Abdulaziz Khelaifi, Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar, His Excellency Mr. Robert Dussé, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Togo, Senators, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and to all Congolese citizens following this movement, wherever you may be. 2 months ago in this very room, we signed a Declaration of Principles, a first tangible step to break with deadlock and chart a path towards peace. Today, that choice takes shape and sustained efforts have come to fruition. With this peace agreement, we open a new chapter, one that calls not only for commitment, but for the courage to see it through. By signing this agreement, we reaffirm a simple truth. Peace is a choice, but also a responsibility to respect international law, to uphold human rights, and to protect the sovereignty of states. Those who have suffered the most are watching. They are expecting this agreement to be respected, and we cannot fail them. This agreement builds on the efforts of many. First and foremost, we want to express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Donald J. Trump for his commitment to this peace process. His leadership kept this process focused and goal-oriented, and that from day one. This was further characterized by the quality and resolve of the entire US team, illustrated by the critical support of Senator Rubio and Dr. Boulos. We salute His Excellency President Félix-Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo for choosing the harder path, a peace rooted in principle and in the dignity of our people. We thank President João Lourenço of Angola, facilitator of the Luanda process, for laying critical foundations. We are also grateful to the State of Qatar and to His Highness the Emir, whose leadership was instrumental in convening the first direct meeting between our two heads of states in March, a courageous step that laid the groundwork for dialogue. Qatar has since facilitated further talks in Doha and remained a principled and steady partner throughout this peace effort. The African Union, through its chairperson and the appointed facilitator, His Excellency Faure Gnassingbé of Togo, have anchored this process in African ownership. Finally, we thank the negotiating team of both the DRC and Rwanda for their perseverance and devotion. This moment has been long in coming. It will not erase the pain, but it can begin to restore what conflict has robbed many women, men, and children of: safety, dignity, and a sense of future. For the Great Lakes region, it offers a rare chance to turn the page, not just with words, but with real change on the ground. Some wounds will heal, but they will never fully disappear. They may grow over, but the skin will forever remain thin and frail, and deep down, the flesh will still remember. At times, we will feel numb, and at others, we will feel a sudden pang that will remind us of what was lost forever. The scars we carry on our bodies and in our souls will remind us of what must never be forgotten, repeated, or accepted. A few days ago in Kinshasa, a coalition of women's organizations shared a clear message with me. Nous ne voulons pas d'une paix d'élite. Nous voulons une paix réelle, vécue, partagée et construite avec nous. We do not want a peace shaped by elites. We want a peace that is real, lived, shared, and built with us. To our fellow citizens in the East, this agreement was signed with you in mind. It provides for the disengagement of armed forces, the protection of civilians, the return of displaced persons and of refugees under government authority, and establishes a follow-up mechanism to ensure compliance. These are not just words on paper. They must now be translated into action with justice, accountability, and political will. This peace agreement is the starting point, not the end goal. It must now be followed by disengagement, justice, and the return of displaced families, and the return of refugees, both to the DRC and Rwanda. However, no text, however carefully negotiated, can carry on its own the weight of peace. I still remember, on the day we signed the Declaration of Principles, a member of the US team said, "If it were easy, it would have been done a long time ago." That holds true now more than ever. What we have signed is only as strong as our will to implement it. We, the DRC, will certainly and resolutely fight for this agreement to be respected, not with our words, but with our deeds. Today, we have chosen peace. What matters now is that we protect it and prove to our people and to the world that even in a region marked by deep scars, dignity and cooperation can prevail. So now, our work truly begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. It's now my honor to invite the parties to sign the peace agreement to be witnessed by Secretary Rubio. The agreement being signed includes provisions on the respect for territorial integrity and the prohibition of hostilities, the disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, the establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism, the facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as humanitarian access, the reaffirmation of MONUSCO's mandate, and the establishment of a regional economic integration framework. The agreement also includes an annex on the functioning of the Joint Security Coordination Mechanism and the full text of the concept of operations of the Harmonized Plan for the Neutralization of the FDLR and disengagement of forces / lifting of defensive measures by Rwanda, which was agreed to under the auspices of the Luanda process on October 31st, 2024, and adopted by the foreign ministers on November 25, 2024. With the parties' signatures today, the agreement immediately enters into force. Thank you very much. Congratulations. This concludes the proceedings. Kindly stay seated while the parties depart.
Can we get a quick picture with the two senators?
Yes, please.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it? This was a big decision. An amazing decision, one that we're very happy about. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law. in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades, and we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people. Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants, because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today. And with that, I'd like you to listen to the words of Pam Bondi. She's an incredible Attorney General. We're very proud of her. And as you know, Todd Blanche is with us, and we have so many others that worked on this case and other cases. And I think they're doing a great job. Pam, please say a few words.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for fighting for all Americans. Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary. Active liberal judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that, 94 districts, and 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer, no longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer, no longer. And on immigration, on a side note, today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HSI investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security. Thank you to everyone working hand in hand with the FBI on all of these transnational gangs. TDA has been a huge terror to our country, as well as MS-13, as well as Sinaloa cartels. No longer, no longer. These injunctions have allowed district court judges to be emperors. They vetoed all of President Trump's power, and they cannot do that. This has been a bipartisan problem that has lasted 5 presidential terms, 5 different presidents, and it has ended today. We will continue to fight for President Trump's policies. I want to thank the Office of White House Counsel, Dave Warrington. You and your staff have been incredible. Our Solicitor General's office, John Sowers, Sarah Harris, and Todd Blanche and Emil Bovey. Todd's going to say a few words because we've had another major ruling today on transgender books and some other great wins that we've had. But no longer will they have this power in our country. It is the president's authority under his executive branch to do everything to fight for the American people, and he will continue to do that. That's why he was overwhelmingly elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's a great day for the rule of law. It's a great day for the Justice Department, and it's one that's been a long time coming, and one that every American should have been waiting for with bated breath. And so I echo what the President said and Attorney General Bondi, that the Supreme Court did a great thing today, not only for this administration, but for every American in this country. If not for the injunctions case, we would be here talking about another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education. Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out of dangerous trans ideology and make the decisions for their children that they believe is correct. And so we thank the Supreme Court for that. There's been multiple decisions over the past several weeks that just show why this nationwide injunction ban had to happen. For example, what I mean by that is local district court judges issuing decisions that are clearly contrary to law just because they don't like the policy of President Trump. And when it gets to the Supreme Court has to correct it. But that takes time. The Attorney General thanked our lawyers, and I'll do it again. Our lawyers are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fight these injunctions and to emergency appeals, emergency stays, going back to the district court judge, asking them to change their view. And so their hard work is really paying off today, but over the past few weeks. We had a stay of an order that prevented DHS from moving aliens to a third country. We had a stay of an order that stopped the Department of Defense from implementing military readiness, the EO that President Trump signed. We had another stay of an order forcing reinstatement of fired executive branch employees, entirely within the President and Article 2, his right to do. We had a stay of, as you all know, of numerous DOJ cases. And again, every one of those stays requires a tremendous amount of work and effort by the lawyers and parties involved, and they should be doing other work. They should be doing the work that the President and this administration demands and has a right to demand, and not fighting these local judges who don't make decisions based on the law. They make decisions because they just simply don't agree with the administration's decision about a policy, and that's wrong. Thank you.
Tell us, are you satisfied with the briefing?
Yeah, let me give you some thoughts about what just transpired in there this morning. We talked about how historic and fateful these moments are. This is a historic time that we live in, and this has been an incredible 2 weeks. Of course, it began with Israel's strikes that were targeted against Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. They eliminated nearly the entire top echelon of Iran's military command and nuclear scientists. And then, of course, this past weekend, the United States acted as we needed to act. And we had our military forces, of course, strike the heart of Iran's nuclear weapons program. We delivered a major setback that resulted then in a feeble face-saving response from Iran, and immediately thereafter a ceasefire agreement. We want to commend President Trump for his decisive and bold leadership and thank our military intelligence and diplomatic professionals for what they've accomplished. It is a true testament to America's leadership and military strength. And I will tell you, I was heartened by the briefing that we just got here and the reaction by all of our colleagues. It was bipartisan. There were Republicans and Democrats there. There was a couple of moments of rousing applause in support for our outstanding, extraordinary military servicemen and women. The pride that we all have as Americans, as the only nation on the face of the planet that is capable of this kind of decisive action. And again, as I said, it takes bold leadership to do so. The briefing today was thorough, I think very helpful for the members. They relayed very important information and answered a lot of the questions that were in the minds of members of the House here, and I know they did the same in the Senate yesterday. So we are blessed to be led by a cabinet of officials who are so good at their jobs, to have the acumen of an extraordinary chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane, and all of the personnel that work there at the Pentagon and in the U.S. military. I'm very proud to be an American today. I think everyone should be. And what I will say next, and what we expect, and one of the things that was discussed this morning, is that we now need Iran to engage with us in direct, good faith talks, negotiations, not through third parties, not through other countries. They need to sit down at the table with us and ensure that this peace is truly lasting. We're on the verge of a real peace in the Middle East for the first time in a long time. And that's because of the decisive leadership of the United States. Everyone around the world understands that. The president got a fantastic reception, as you know, at the NATO meeting, at the summit. And it is so encouraging to us that for the first time now, the other countries, NATO partners, are agreeing to commit 5% of their GDP to the fund to defend the peace around the world. The American people, American taxpayers cannot be leaned upon to carry everyone else any longer. We have to have and pursue an America First policy, and that means what is in America's interest. Of course, what has been done here was not just in America's interest, but in the interest of all peace-loving and people and free people around the world. So I have a couple of my great colleagues, our Majority Leader Steve Scalise here, and Brian Mast, who is the chair of one of our most important committees, our Foreign Affairs Committee. And if you want to have a few questions, I'm sure we can answer those.
You called this a major setback for Iran's nuclear capabilities. Do you have a sense on how much uranium may have survived or how much was destroyed? What are you learning about that?
We have a sense about that. Some of this is classified, but I will tell you that there was a CIA press release, I think, that went out yesterday, and they concluded that, Iran, this is a quote, Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged, unquote. I'll put that in layman's terms. I would say it's a substantial setback, and that was a first-hand, authoritative, and reliable account. That differs greatly from the low-confidence preliminary assessment that was leaked, sadly and dangerously, probably from this body, and we're going to get down to the bottom of that. But you can dismiss the low-level initial assessment, and you can rely upon what the CIA has said, because these are first-hand accounts. It is clear, everyone can see by the videos, that these massive ordnance penetrating bombs did the job. And I think their key facilities have been disabled, and I think Iran is now a long time away from doing what they might have done before this very successful operation.
Did they rule out the potential for any race strikes?
I'm not sure how much of that's classified, and I shouldn't be getting into that today. But we are very encouraged about the situation and where it stands. We're very encouraged. I think the greatest evidence that we have of the effectiveness of this mission was that Iran came immediately and was willing to engage in a ceasefire agreement. That would have been unthinkable just a few weeks back. So it's a very good thing for the whole world.
Do you believe that the president needs to strike a deal with Iran and have something in writing moving forward?
Well, look, I think that's the next logical step. I mean, we will do what is necessary to maintain the peace, but it is in Iran's interest and, of course, in the world's interest for them to come to the table in good faith and make an agreement. That would be good for the entire region. We have peace in the Middle East, and that is a big step towards peace around the globe. So.
Thank you all. Has the Senate, have you talked to the Senate yet on when they will hold their vote and when the House will get a chance?
I was in the Oval Office with Leader Thune as recently as early evening yesterday with the president. We had a long discussion about this and where the bill stands in its status, and we are very, very close. And Leader Thune has confidence that they could get the job done by this weekend, and we certainly are hopeful for that. We would still like to meet that July 4th self-imposed deadline, and the president likes that idea. I certainly like that idea, and so does Leader Thune. So we're in a wait-and-see posture in the House right here, and we'll see what happens. So we're ready to act.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Look, I think the questions we're all asking is what's next.
They're ready? Please join me in welcoming Secretary Rubio, Foreign Minister Wagner, and Foreign Minister Nduhungirehe. Secretary Rubio, Foreign Minister Wagner, Foreign Minister Nduhungirehe, Minister of State Al-Khulaifi, African Union Chairperson Yusuf, Foreign Minister Ducey, ambassadors, members of Congress, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining for the historic signing of a comprehensive peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. In a moment, Secretary Rubio and the foreign ministers of the DRC and Rwanda will sign an agreement that builds on the Declaration of Principles signed here on April 25th. With their signatures, the peace agreement will enter into force, bringing an end to a 30-year conflict and setting both countries and their people on a path towards peace and prosperity. This would not be possible without the leadership and vision of President Trump. He has made peace a priority of his administration, and we have taken up his call to find a peaceful resolution to this conflict. I would like to recognize the tireless work that both foreign ministers and their teams put into reaching this agreement. I would also like to recognize the partnership from the government of Qatar, who is driving towards a parallel agreement between the government of the DRC and the M23 armed group. In addition, I would like to acknowledge that the work done under the auspices of the African Union was critical for reaching this agreement. We look forward to coordinating with the AU chairperson and Togolese president, who is serving as the AU facilitator to ensure implementation of the agreement. Finally, I would like to recognize the team here at the Department of State who facilitated the discussions and helped guide both sides towards this agreement. I will now turn to Secretary Rubio for opening remarks.
Thank you, and I'm honored all of you are here today. I'm honored to be joined by my counterparts from the Democratic Republic of Congo and from Rwanda, and the hard work you both put in to make this happen. This was not easy, and there's still work to be done, obviously, in terms of implementation, but we're very honored you're both here, and it's been an honor to work with both of you. We have a lot of people to thank. Obviously, the great team here at the Department of State who did a great job, Mr. Boulos, who did a phenomenal job. He's been on the job now about 10 weeks, and he's jumped all over this and really worked it hard, and you did a great job, and we are grateful to you for all of your work. Obviously, this could not have happened without such close friends and partners in the African Union and in Qatar, who we're working a lot lately with Qatar. We're doing a lot of things with you guys, and you've been very instrumental in the African Union. Without you, this couldn't have happened. I mean, you may put everybody together. I do want to recognize what I say, former colleagues. It wasn't 6 months ago, I was still a senator, but they're here now, Senators Rounds and Risch. Senator Risch is the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and a very close friend of mine, and he's obviously watched this issue very closely. He's made it a priority. And Senator Rounds has been talking to me about this before I was even nominated to the position and even during the nomination process. And we have others who are not able to make it today that I also want to recognize, Senator Coons and Booker. There's been a lot of interest in this, and we're grateful to all of them. They were invited, but I guess you know, they have stuff going on in the Senate, as you know. And but we're grateful that both of you are here, and it's instrumental. This is you know, an important moment after 30 years of war. President Trump is a president of peace. He really does want peace. He prioritizes it above all else. We saw his intervention in the conflict between India and Pakistan. We saw his intervention most recently as a few days ago in a very dangerous war, right? A very dangerous war that could have really spiraled out of control, and his intervention made that possible. And there are other places that we want to see this, but we're very excited about this, and we can't wait to have the heads of state, the presidents of the respective countries here in Washington in a few weeks to finalize the complete protocol and agreement, but today is an important step in that direction, and we're grateful to be able to host it here at the Department of State. And just thinking, you know, we think sometimes about peace. It's not just about ending wars. It's about, and it's not just about saving lives. It's about allowing people to live. It's about allowing people to now have dreams and hopes for a better life, for prosperity, for economic opportunity, for family reunification, for all the things that make life worth living. Those things become impossible when there's war and when there's conflict. So we're grateful to have played the role we've played. We acknowledge and recognize there's still more work to be done. But we thank you all very much for being a part of this historic and important day. This is really why I wanted this job, or why I embraced this job so much, is moments like this. This is, in essence, the Department of State is really the Department of Peace. It's designed to bring people together, both in our relations with other countries, but to the extent we can use the stature and the influence of the United States to bring others together. It makes the world a better place. And I honestly believe that when there's peace in the world among friends who may have disagreements and conflict, it does help America. It does help make America stronger and safer and more prosperous. It gives us partners we can do business with. And partners that we can work with to address insecurity and threats to our national security and to our collective national security. So we are grateful to both of you. I know how hard this was and how much work went into it, and we know there's more work to be done. And but we are grateful to have you here today. We're honored to be a part of this. We're excited to be a part of it. And again, I do want to thank everyone here in our Africa Bureau and at the Department of State. And once again, our superstar there, Mr. Boulos. What do you want to do next after you're done with this? Sudan. Yeah, very important. Actually, very, very important. And you're very involved in that as well. So what are you guys doing this week in Qatar? You guys want to work a little? We are grateful to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of Rwanda for remarks.
Thank you. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Minister Therese Kaikwamba-Wagner, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mahmoud Yusuf, Minister of State Mohamed Ali Khulaifi of Qatar, my colleague, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Togo, Robert Dussé, Senators, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Let me begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to President Donald Trump for his personal engagement in facilitating this historic agreement. We also extend our gratitude to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Special Advisor Massad Boulos, and the entire State Department team. Your dedication has been indispensable. This agreement is the product of months of coordinated efforts by multiple actors. It is very important to note that the state of Qatar has played an absolutely central role. Indeed, the opening, which led to today's agreement, began in Doha. We will lend our full support in the weeks ahead to Qatar's mediation efforts, led by Minister of State Mohammed Al-Khulaifi, to secure a peace agreement between the DRC government and the AFC M23. This process is already well underway. Today's agreement also builds on the African-led peace initiatives, which are ably led by the African Union facilitator, President Faure Gnassingbé of Togo. The heart of this peace agreement is the decision to establish a standing joint security coordination mechanism between DRC and Rwanda. The first order of business is to begin implementing of the concept of operations for the neutralization of the FDLR, to be accompanied by a lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. This is grounded in the commitment made here for an irreversible and verifiable end to state support for FDLR and associated militias. That is the bedrock of peace and security in our region. FDLR is no ordinary militia. It is the remnant of the forces which committed the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, in which 1 million people were killed. With this agreement, we also committed to facilitate the return of refugees in our respective territories with the support of the UNHCR. Creating the conditions for the safe and dignified return of refugees is vital to achieve lasting peace. We also took to enhanced economic cooperation, including with American companies and investors. Shared growth and cross-border cooperation will unlock tangible dividends for both our countries. We must acknowledge that there is a great deal of uncertainty in our region and beyond, because many previous agreements have not been implemented, and there is no doubt that the road ahead will not be easy. But with the continued support of the United States and other partners, we believe that a turning point has been reached. Rwanda stands ready to work with the DRC to deliver on our joint commitments. To conclude, allow me to once again express Rwanda's appreciation to all who have contributed to this milestone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Mr. Secretary of State, the Honorable Senator Marco Rubio, Dr. Massad Boulos, Senior Advisor for African Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mr. Olivier Nduhungirehe, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Khulaifi, Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar, His Excellency Mr. Robert Dussé, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Togo, Senators, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and to all Congolese citizens following this movement, wherever you may be. 2 months ago in this very room, we signed a Declaration of Principles, a first tangible step to break with deadlock and chart a path towards peace. Today, that choice takes shape and sustained efforts have come to fruition. With this peace agreement, we open a new chapter, one that calls not only for commitment, but for the courage to see it through. By signing this agreement, we reaffirm a simple truth. Peace is a choice, but also responsibility, to respect international law, to uphold human rights, and to protect the sovereignty of states. Those who have suffered the most are watching. They are expecting this agreement to be respected, and we cannot fail them. This agreement builds on the efforts of many. First and foremost, we want to express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Donald J. Trump for his commitment to this peace process. His leadership kept this process focused and goal-oriented, and that from day one. This was further characterized by the quality and resolve of the entire U.S. team. illustrated by the critical support of Senator Rubio and Dr. Boulos. We salute His Excellency, President Félix-Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo, for choosing the harder path, a peace rooted in principle and in the dignity of our people. We thank President João Lourenço of Angola, facilitator of the Rwanda process, for laying critical foundations. We are also grateful to the State of Qatar and to His Highness the Emir, whose leadership was instrumental in convening the first direct meeting between our two heads of states in March, a courageous step that laid the groundwork for dialogue. Qatar has since facilitated further talks in Doha and remained a principled and steady partner throughout this peace effort. The African Union, through its chairperson and the appointed facilitator, His Excellency Faure Gnassingbé of Togo, have anchored this process in African ownership. Finally, we thank the negotiating team of both the DRC and Rwanda for their perseverance and devotion. This moment has been long in coming. It will not erase the pain, but it can begin to restore what conflict has robbed many women, men, and children of: safety, dignity, and a sense of future. For the Great Lakes region, it offers a rare chance to turn the page, not just with words, but with real change on the ground. Some wounds will heal, but they will never fully disappear. They may grow over, but the skin will forever remain thin and frail, and deep down, the flesh will still remember. At times, we will feel numb, and at others, we will feel a sudden pang that will remind us of what was lost forever. The scars we carry on our bodies and in our souls will remind us of what must never be forgotten, repeated, or accepted. A few days ago in Kinshasa, a coalition of women's organizations shared a clear message with me. Nous ne voulons pas d'une paix d'élite. Nous voulons une paix réelle, vécue, partagée et construite avec nous. We do not want a peace shaped by elites. We want a peace that is real, lived, shared, and built with us. To our fellow citizens in the East, this agreement was signed with you in mind. It provides for the disengagement of armed forces, the protection of civilians, the return of displaced persons and of refugees under government authority, and establishes a follow-up mechanism to ensure compliance. These are not just words on paper. They must now be translated into action with justice, accountability, and political will. This peace agreement is the starting point, not the end goal. It must now be followed by disengagement, justice, and the return of displaced families, and the return of refugees, both to the DRC and Rwanda. However, no text, however carefully negotiated, can carry on its own the weight of peace. I still remember, on the day we signed the Declaration of Principles, a member of the US team said, "If it were easy, it would have been done a long time ago." That holds true now more than ever. What we have signed is only as strong as our will to implement it. We, the DRC, will certainly and resolutely fight for this agreement to be respected, not with our words, but with our deeds. Today, we have chosen peace. What matters now is that we protect it and prove to our people and to the world that even in a region marked by deep scars, dignity and cooperation can prevail. So now, our work truly begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. It's now my honor to invite the parties to sign the peace agreement to be witnessed by Secretary Rubio. The agreement being signed includes provisions on the respect for territorial integrity and the prohibition of hostilities, the disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, the establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism, the facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as humanitarian access, the reaffirmation of MONUSCO's mandate, and the establishment of a regional economic integration framework. The agreement also includes an annex on the functioning of the Joint Security Coordination Mechanism and the full text of the concept of operations of the harmonized plan for the neutralization of the FDLR and disengagement of forces / lifting of defensive measures by Rwanda, which was agreed to under the auspices of the Rwanda process on October 31st, 2024, and adopted by the foreign ministers on November 25, 2024. With the parties' signatures today, the agreement immediately enters into force. Thank you very much. Congratulations. This concludes the proceedings. Kindly stay seated while the parties depart.
Can we get a quick picture with the two senators?
Yes, please.
Strength slip, and adversaries like China begun to outpace us in key capabilities. Our bill will help reverse that trend. It invests in shipbuilding, supports a new Golden Dome for missile defense, revitalizes defense manufacturing capacity in America, and invests in the war-fighting technologies of tomorrow. With this bill, we can help ensure that our men and women in uniform have what they need to deter and defeat any threat. Mr. President, we're safeguarding our national security from every angle, which means addressing energy security. Energy security might not get the same attention as border security and national defense, but it's a big part of keeping America strong and secure. Relying on energy from hostile nations or unstable parts of the world can be a dangerous proposition. And maintaining energy independence is key to keeping a country secure. We're fortunate to have an abundance of natural resources in this country. And our bill makes sure that the American people benefit from those resources by freeing them up for responsible domestic production for a secure, stable, and affordable supply of energy. Mr. President, there's a lot more I could say about this bill. But before I close, I just want to talk about how this bill delivers on Republicans' promise to rein in the size of government. Deliver savings to the American people by reining in waste, fraud, and abuse in federal programs. It includes the largest spending cut in American history, as well as common sense, good government reforms that haven't been attempted in Washington, D.C. in decades. And with more revenue we get, Mr. President, by growing the economy, not by raising taxes, this bill will actually help reduce the deficit by as much as $6 trillion. Mr. President, this bill delivers on the mandate the American people gave Republicans last year. A stronger America, a safer America, and a more prosperous America. It's right around the corner. Mr. President, I yield the floor, and I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
Any questions? Yes, for Pam, please.
Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Attorney General. So as you know, the Supreme Court did not rule on the underlying constitutionality of the President's birthright citizenship order. So what is the plan now? Are you going to try to implement the EO just in states where there isn't a legal challenge?
Yes, so birthright citizenship will be decided in October in the next session by the Supreme Court, unless it comes down in the next few minutes. I guess it could come down. I think they're still deliberating right now on some cases. As you heard, we just got transgender books, which is a huge win. But most likely, that will be decided in October in the next session. However, it indirectly impacts us because, as you correctly pointed out, if there's a birthright citizenship case in Oregon, it will only affect the plaintiff in Oregon, not the entire country. So yes, it's indirectly, but that's pending litigation, and we're waiting on that in the next term.
And how concerned are you that the Supreme Court will come back and determine that the executive order is unconstitutional?
Oh, we're very confident in the Supreme Court. But again, it's pending litigation, and that will directly be determined in October, but it indirectly impacts every case in this country, and we're thrilled with their decision today. Peter.
Madam Attorney General, thank you for being here to take our questions. A couple questions to the both of you. The EO had a 30-day grace period before it goes into effect. Is there any thought about trying to make it effective immediately within that period of time?
We're going to follow the law. We're going to make those decisions, and we're going to do what's right in the bounds of the law.
And then the DOJ didn't ask the justices to rule on the merits of the birthright citizenship ban. Just for explanation purposes, why?
Sure, because that's going to come down in October in the separate. This was huge because it's indirectly impacted today. As I said, it's now.
Mr. President.
The majority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent the quorum call be vitiated.
The Senate is not in a quorum call.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, yesterday the United States Senate. Can we have order, Mr. President?
Order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, yesterday the United States Senate got an update from the administration about Saturday's strike on Iran. We heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Central Intelligence Agency Director John Ratcliffe, and General Dan Kane, who is Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They told us, beyond a doubt, the Iran strikes were successful. Two things are clear. One, President Trump protected our country. And two, America drew a red line on Iran, no nuclear weapons, and President Trump enforced it. Every recent president has said a nuclear Iran is unacceptable. Bill Clinton said it, George W. Bush said it, Barack Obama said it, Joe Biden said it. Even Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said back in 2015, if there is only a 10% chance Iran uses a nuclear weapon, it is vital we prevent it. That's exactly what President Trump did, and he did it effectively. For over 40 years, Iran has targeted, threatened, and terrorized the United States and our allies. We know from our own intelligence and from independent experts that Iran was dangerously close to getting nuclear weapons. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle have called for diplomacy. Well, President Trump tried diplomacy for months. President Trump laid down guidelines and deadlines, and then he drew a red line. Iran used diplomatic talks to stall. It did so as it continued to race toward a nuclear weapon. As Commander-in-Chief, President Trump has the full authority to act. He did so consistent with Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, and he did so decisively. It was a limited, powerful, and precise strike. It was aimed specifically at Iran's nuclear facilities, not at Iran's leadership, not at the Iranian people. And here's more good news. No American lives were lost, absolutely none. This was a powerful message to Iran, but not just to Iran, also to Russia, to China, to North Korea, and anyone else who is an adversary of the United States. The message is this: America means what it says, and America will keep our people safe. Now, Democrats, of course, rushed to turn this successful strike into a political fight. Even today, they're forcing the Senate to vote this very afternoon on a resolution that says the president lacked the authority to do what he did. They've gone so far as to imply that the successful protection of the American people is an impeachable offense. Democrats are calling for the president's impeachment because of his successful attack on the Iranian nuclear program. Mr. President, national security should be something that unites us. But let's not forget, Democrats have said presidents can act without a vote of Congress. They've said it many times in the past. Recall when President Obama struck Libya in 2011. Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Congress wasn't needed because the strike was limited. Now that there is a Republican in the White House, what we're seeing is that Democrats are suddenly trying to rewrite the rules. National security moves fast. That's why our Constitution says give the commander-in-chief real authority. President Trump seized the moment. He did it responsibly, he did it decisively, and he did it constitutionally. American allies are safer today because of it. And the resolution from Senator Kaine that we're voting on today, I believe it's not needed, and I most certainly will oppose it. If passed, it would prevent the president from protecting us in the future. I urge all of my colleagues to reject it. Mr. President, on a related matter, the Iranian airstrike is about more than nuclear weapons. It's about also the threat of terrorism. Iranian terrorists have targeted Americans for decades. Iran actively pursued an assassination plot against President Trump. Other top officials in the United States have also been targets of Iranian terrorists. Recently, Iran threatened to activate its so-called sleeper cells right here inside the United States. Let that sink in. This is an urgent reminder that national security starts with border security. Under Joe Biden and the Democrats, more than 1,500 illegal immigrants from Iran crossed our southern border. 729 of them were released into our country by Joe Biden. And that might just be the tip of the iceberg. Because remember, under Joe Biden and the Democrats, there were millions of gotaways. People that weren't stopped sneaking across the border. They were detected, either satellite images, different mechanisms of looking for people, heat detection of people moving across the desert, but not being able to be captured. How many of them were Iranian agents as well? How many of them are today in sleeper cells? Well, the truth is, no one knows. What we do know is this. President Trump took office, and since that time, illegal border crossings are down by 95%. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agencies are working fast. In the last 7 days alone, ICE arrested 130 illegal immigrants from Iran. Right now, 670 Iranian nationals are being detained. President Trump's detentions are working. Now the administration needs more resources to finish the job. That's why Republicans are fighting for our comprehensive safety agenda. Our bill increases funding for border security and enforcement by $160 billion. It finishes the wall. It hires thousands of new Border Patrol and ICE agents. It gives them a bonus for keeping our communities safe. In November, Madam President, Americans want, need, and voted for safe communities and secure borders. Our Republican safety agenda delivers what the Americans wanted, need, and have voted for. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor. Suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsor-Brooks.
Madam President, I rise to recognize and commend the outstanding efforts of our law enforcement community in Western North Carolina for their role in the success of Operation Uptown Funk. Now, that's a pretty creative name, but it's a very serious issue. It was a year-long investigation into drug trafficking in Appalachia. This coordinated operation has involved law enforcement agencies from Buncombe counties, Henderson, Haywood, Transylvania counties in North Carolina, as well as Greenville and Spartanburg counties in South Carolina. And it's been supported by the Drug Enforcement Administration. This is nothing short of a strong testament to the commitment of our law enforcement officers to put the welfare of our communities first. Over the course of this investigation, authorities confiscated more than $175,000 of illicit funds, 20 firearms, and 30 pounds of illegal drugs, including substantial quantities of cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. More than 30 individuals from Henderson County have been arrested and are being held accountable for their role in this dangerous drug network. Madam President, these results, they're not just statistics. They represent lives saved, overdoses prevented, and neighborhoods that can breathe easier knowing that they're a lot safer. In a region still working to recover from the devastation caused by Hurricane Helene, dismantling this traffic ring has brought a renewed sense of hope and security for Western North Carolinians. On behalf of the people of North Carolina, I extend my deepest gratitude and congratulations to Sheriff Lowell Griffin of Henderson County, Sheriff Quentin Miller of Buncombe County, and Sheriff Bill Wilkie of Haywood County, and Sheriff Chuck Owenby of Transylvania County. I also want to thank the dedicated men and women within their departments, especially the Henderson County Drug Interdiction and Criminal Enforcement Unit, or DICE, for their service. Their courage has protected countless families and made it clear to the drug traffickers that they will find no refuge in the mountains of our beautiful Western North Carolina. It's my honor to represent a state whose law enforcement professionals lead with tremendous integrity and commitment to our citizens. I'll continue working in the U.S. Senate to ensure that they have the tools, resources, and support that they need to keep our communities safe. I yield the floor.
Well, I'm pleased to officially announce that the Department of the Navy is renaming the Fleet Replenishment Oiler, formerly known as the USNS Harvey Milk, to the USNS Oscar V. Peterson. We are taking the politics out of ship naming. We're not renaming the ship to anything political. This is not about political activists, unlike the previous administration. Instead, we're renaming the ship after a United States Navy Congressional Medal of Honor recipient, as it should be. People want to be proud of the ship they're sailing in. And so we're renaming it after a chief, a Navy chief. That during the Battle of the Coral Sea in May of 1942, Chief Water Tender Peterson led a repair party on the USS Neosho. The ship was severely damaged by Japanese dive bombers, and the entire repair party was either killed or severely wounded. Peterson himself was gravely wounded, yet he managed to single-handedly close the bulkhead stop valves, thereby helping to keep the ship operational. In performing his historic actions and heroic actions, Peterson received additional injuries and burns, which tragically resulted in his death. But his spirit of self-sacrifice and concern for his crewmates was in keeping with the finest traditions of the Navy. And for his heroic actions, Oscar Peterson was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. So I would like to officially welcome the USNS Oscar V. Peterson to the Navy's vessel.
Well, thank you very much, and I'd like to ask Caroline, who's become very famous, big star, and she has a person who's a colleague of hers, a friend of hers, and that she has a lot of respect for, who comes from the area and knows exactly what's happening. Caroline, could I ask you to say a few words?
Yes, sir. Here we have Haryana, who is from the continent of Africa. She's been a reporter here in the United States for many years, and she has a story to share with the press, with the media, and with these two fantastic leaders who have joined you today. So, Haryana, please.
Why don't you come up here and talk so they can see?
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
It's a
Mr.
great honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as Caroline has mentioned, President, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm the only African reporter accredited here at the White House
Wow.
and covered for the entire continent. So I just arrived from Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo,
Right.
yesterday. I went to see firsthand how the people is feeling and the president's message, President Felix Tshisekedi, about this upcoming peace deal. And let me tell you firsthand what I've witnessed myself. I spoke with the people in the street. I spoke with youth. They know your name. They know that a president named President Trump is working hard to finally bring peace to the country. I saw hope. They have hope now for a better day in Congo. They see what you're doing as a future, better future for Congo. And I had opportunity to sit down with President Felix Tshisekedi for an interview because I want to understand his mind, what he's thinking, his feeling about everything that your administration is doing. And he told me firsthand that for many years, many American presidents overlooked this conflict. They didn't do nothing. Even myself, I covered President Biden's administration. I pressed many times about this conflict. People are dying in Congo. This country has so much potential, but they need help because this war is destroying the country.
Right.
They never gave me any answer. And he told me, President Tshisekedi, that you have no idea, he's very thankful for what you're doing, for what your administration is doing. Not only him, the entire Congolese people, they see that finally they will have hope. And President Tshisekedi also mentioned at the end of my interview that when peace finally comes to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, he's thinking to nominate you as a Nobel Prize Peace because he said you deserve, you have been working to bring peace in the world, not only at the Congo, and he's very hopeful to meet you in the future.
That's so nice, boy, and that's so beautifully stated. And Caroline said, number one, she did say, and I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect, she said, she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career, but I said it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside. So I wish I had more reporters like you. So you covered Africa for a long time?
Yes, for over 10 years.
Wow.
I cover even your first administration.
Yes, I know that. That's great. Well, thank you. That's so nice that you said that. Appreciate it.
And I have one more question,
Yes.
Mr. President. Since we know in July or in the future, both President of Rwanda and the Congo will be coming
Yes.
to the United States, In Africa, President John Lorenzo, the president of Angola, he is also the leader of African Union.
Good.
He
Yes, I know.
worked very hard to bring peace, but unfortunately...
Let's get him here.
Yes, that's
okay?
right.
Would you invite him for me?
Of course.
Okay?
Of
No,
course.
we'll have, I know that he works very hard, and he's the head of essentially the union. So the union all over Africa, not the kind of union that we have. This is the union all over Africa, and I'd love to have him, so you'll let him know.
Of course,
Okay.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. Now you go back to where you belong, right? That's great. That's a great job. It's real knowledge and real heart, too. Congratulations. Okay. So we're here today to celebrate a glorious triumph, and that's what it is, for the cause of peace. And this is a long time waiting. The signing of the historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. The conflict has continued, and it's been going on for many, many years. It's been going from, I guess they say 30 years, the Great Lakes region of Africa for a long time, and maybe even a time before that. How is the Great Lakes region? Must be beautiful, right? Beautiful, beautiful region, but they had a lot of war, right? A lot of fighting, a lot of death. It's displaced countless people and claimed the lives of thousands and thousands. But today, the violence and destruction comes to an end, and the entire region begins a new chapter of hope and opportunity, harmony, prosperity, and peace. That's been a long time waiting. I said, how long has the war been going? And a friend of mine who was very much involved said 30 years, and at least 6 million people were killed during that period of time. It's incredible. And somebody said that was actually, it's the biggest war on the planet since World War II. So it's a shame, but we're going to bring it to an end. I want to express my gratitude and congratulations to the representatives of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda, who signed this pivotal agreement a short time ago. They just signed right in front. And let me also thank Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has worked very hard on this subject, and we've worked on it together, for his outstanding leadership, as well as Senior Advisor for African and Africa Affairs, Mossad Boulos, who's, as you know, spends a lot of his time in Africa, and he's very comfortable there. I said, were you at all uncomfortable with all of the turmoil and all of the killing? And he said, no, I wasn't uncomfortable, and that's what you need. You need somebody that's going to be able to get. So, Mossad, I want to thank you very much for the job you've done. Amazing guy, actually. I also want to thank African Union, Qatar, Togo, for working closely with the United States. And I know Qatar was really working hard, and African Union, we just spoke about that. And I look forward to having them representatives here when we do the official meeting, and that'll be sometime in July. And we look forward to it. And you better be here covering it, okay? We're not going to send anybody else covering it but you. But this is a tremendous breakthrough. In a few short months, we've now achieved peace between India and Pakistan, Israel and Iran, and the DRC and Rwanda, and a couple of others also. Serbia, you know, they were getting ready to go to war with a group I won't even mention because it didn't happen. We were able to stop it, but I have a friend in Serbia, and they said we're going to go to war again. And I won't mention that it's Kosovo, but it's Kosovo. But they were going to have a big time war, and we stopped it. We stopped it because of trade. They want to trade with the United States. I said we don't trade with people that go to war. And we said that also with, if you take a look at Pakistan and India, it was great. They have two great leaders, and they were able to stop. They were in the midst of a big fight, I guess everybody saw, and it was going to get very bad. And they are nuclear nations, very powerful nuclear nations. In the months and years ahead, my administration will continue to work closely with all of the parties in this deal and ensure the agreements are fully taken care of, and you're going to do what's in the agreement. We'll say you better do what's in that agreement, right? Because if somebody fails to do that, bad things happen. But I have a feeling that after 30 years, I think after 30 years, you're all set. I think both of you have said that's enough, right? That's enough. You've seen it all. So this is a wonderful day. It's a great day. We've had some tremendous success. It's been a great week between just coming back from a very successful trip. NATO's really pulled together. They have, they're going to spend over $1 trillion a year. Nobody expected a thing like that to happen. And we had the war, as you know. We call it the 12-day war. It was exactly a 12-day war. And we ended up with no nuclear weapons. That's what we wanted. They were just absolutely blown to pieces, those 3 sites. And there's no nuclear weapons, and hopefully there can be a lot of healing, and the healing is starting. And it's been a really pretty amazing week, and this is one that I really look forward to. This was set up a few weeks ago, and it was something that I really look forward to. If we can do this, and we do that because we have a certain competence that's good, we're able to get people to be peaceful. I think we can do war better than anybody, but we don't want to. And we have the greatest military in the world. They showed that in Iran. Those pilots, they flew for 36 hours. And think of that, and they hit their target. The size of this desk, half the size of this desk, from about 52,000 feet in the dark of night with no moon, 0 moon. They wanted it that way. Can you believe it? And they hit, every missile hit exactly half the size of this beautiful Resolute desk. We don't want to talk about it when it comes to rockets hitting it, but half the size of this, and they hit dead center from tremendous heights, going at tremendous speeds. It's amazing. Nobody could do a thing like that. Nobody has that weaponry, and nobody could do a thing like that. So we had a very busy and successful week. And in addition to that, our economy is doing great, setting records with the economy, and a lot of other good things happening. But this is about Congo and Rwanda. And I'd like to ask, if I might, would you say a few words before we introduce our guests?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes. So under your leadership, Mr. President, and the full support of Secretary Rubio and the entire team at the State Department, we engaged with the 2 parties in early April. And within 3 weeks, they signed the Declaration of Principles. And now within about 2 months from that, we have signed today the final, this is actually the final peace agreement. You know, many people were wondering if this is preliminary. No, this is the actual final peace agreement that they've signed today. You've also expressed interest in inviting the heads of states to the White House for a signing ceremony. So there will be some other additional agreements that will be signed. In addition to this, which will become known as the Washington Accord, with regards to the Great Lakes region.
That's great.
There are some economic...
Why not the Trump Accord? I'm only kidding. I think that's great. Washington Accord.
And there's an economic aspect as well that is extremely important for both countries. They have also worked, last week we finalized the regional economic integration framework, which both countries will be signing at the White House here during that ceremony. And
that's going to be a great ceremony.
Absolutely.
We're going to make that a great ceremony and bring other people that were involved, some other people, besides the gentleman we talked about who we know has worked so hard. If you think there are other people that are deserving, let us know. Okay?
And there will be some bilateral agreements. We're negotiating a minerals deal with the DRC for critical minerals. Many American companies have shown interest in investing in the DRC, and these we're talking about long-term investments. Same thing with Rwanda. Many American companies have shown interest, and not only in mining, but also in the midstream and downstream, which will be the processing of minerals. We're also working and supporting the Lobito corridor, which will help building the infrastructure. Just 2 days ago, the United States signed and supported a project of $1.5 billion for electric transmission from Angola to the DRC. And there are many other projects of that nature lined up. So we will be, under your leadership, Mr. President, will be working with the 2 countries very closely and with the support of Qatar to make sure that this agreement is implemented.
And a lot of our companies are in both of these countries now, especially since we've been getting along so well. It's probably the way we were brought together. And we have a lot of our big companies are there between rare earth and all of the other things that they do in Africa, which is very greatly expanding, especially in these two countries. You have earth, they consider it to be about the best in the world, actually, I've heard. So we're doing a lot of different things, and it's all going to bring everybody together. That's how this all began, I guess. But the big thing is, the big thing for me is there's really only one thing, and that's getting a peace treaty with two countries that have been fighting for 30 years. And I want to thank you all. Will, if you could, you could bring the letters over.
Of course, sir. So in front of you, as you said, sir, these are the actual agreements that were signed respectively by the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda earlier today, witnessed by Secretary Rubio. We've also prepared for you two letters. This is to President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, expressing your appreciation and congratulations for everything that's happened already, and of course inviting him to Washington for, as Dr. Bula said, what we hope will be the Washington Accords, finally setting the terms for peace and prosperity in this region, hopefully for a very long time.
That's great. That's beautiful. Very important. We're going to put a picture in there, right? As soon as this is over, they're going to put, we have a fast-moving photographer, Dan. He's going to put a nice picture of us here, okay? That's
And this is a letter to President Chikisade of the Democratic Republic of Congo, again congratulating him on settling this long-running war and inviting him to Washington, D.C. for the final conclusion of the agreement, hopefully soon.
That's great. That's right. So I'd like to ask JD to say a few words, our great Vice President, and then Marco, and go ahead.
Great. Well, first, let me welcome the foreign ministers of Rwanda and Congo. It's great to have you in the Oval Office. And second, let me say congratulations to the President, to Secretary Rubio, and the entire team. I think for the people of these two countries, they should know that the United States is committed to the pathway of peace. But to my fellow Americans, this is really a celebratory moment. This is a big moment for our country because under the President's leadership, we've taken what was 30 years of killing and war, the worst war in terms of death count since World War II, and now we're on a pathway to peace. And so if I think about what I know about these two countries, for 30 years, pretty much the entire time that I can remember these two countries being in the news, much of the story has been about them fighting one another, about them killing one another. And now we can look forward to a future where my children will look at this moment as the beginning of a new story, a story of prosperity and of peace. So thanks to the President, congratulations to the entire team, and to my fellow Americans. We should all be really proud because it's amazing what active presidential leadership can accomplish when it's geared towards peace and prosperity. And that's what we have in the Oval Office right now. So great job, sir.
Thank you very much, JD and Marco, and then we're going to ask the two principals to speak.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, first of all, thank you. When I first came on this job a few months ago, you made it very clear that one of the priority of this administration under your leadership was going to be the pursuit of peace. And from day one, whether it's been in Ukraine and Russia, whether it's been Pakistan, India, whether it's been Iran and Israel, and in the continent of Africa, your priority's been on peace. And today we see this come to fruition. It's sad. Wars get a lot more attention than peace. But peace is harder than war. A lot harder, and I want to congratulate both of the leaders here and their respective presidents for choosing the harder path, which is often peace, than the easier path, which sometimes is war, as costly and as bloody as it may be. And I echo the Vice President's statements, and that is that Americans should be very proud that the #1 voice for peace in the world today is our president, your president. And so thank you, President Trump. And I want to, again, recognize Dr. Boulos and the work he's put into this from day one. He's really put a lot of time and effort, and as our friends from the respective countries can share with us. And last point, I do want to thank, you've done this already, but the African Union, Togo, and Qatar, who have been extraordinary partners and whose help we're going to need to continue to receive in order to bring all this to fruition. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Great job you've done. Do you want to start? Either way, would you like to start?
Ladies first, maybe.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for having us here. I think I can summarize my contribution in 3 main points. First of all, thank you and congratulations indeed for this remarkable milestone, which is putting an end to 30 years of conflict and of suffering, and which is redefining the perspectives that millions of Congolese and of citizens of the greater Great Lakes region will have. The second point is stay committed, stay on board. We need the United States to make sure that this agreement holds and that you hold us accountable. And the third point is, if you stay on board, I think there are so many perspectives that we can transform our partnerships through and that can usher in an era of prosperity, of growth, and of shared bilateral relationships that go well beyond the challenges that we've shared together, and that can at least, or finally, focus on the potential and of the wealth that we can share. So again, our heartfelt gratitude to you on my behalf, but more importantly, on behalf of the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you so much.
Beautifully spoken, and I look forward to seeing your leader. They will, highly respected person, as you know.
Indeed.
Highly respected all over the world, but in Africa in particular. So sometime in July, we'll do something, a big ceremony.
We look forward to it.
Thank you very
so
much. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years. And there has been many mediation, facilitation in the past, but none of them succeeded. And we believe that it's because of your leadership and your steadfast commitment to this process, with also a new approach of economic integration, regional economic integration, which is important to allow Rwanda and DRC working together, because this is a very rich region with cross-border trade, with minerals, with natural wealth. So with the US standing side by side with Rwanda and DRC, we believe that we will achieve a long-time peace. And we also believe that, as my colleague from DRC stated, it's important for the United States to stay committed, because today we signed, but now we need to implement what we have signed in order to open this new era you were talking about of prosperity, so that we can reap the economic dividend of peace. So for this economic integration framework to be implemented, it's important for the US to accompany the parties to implement what we have signed, because in the past we have signed so many agreements that were not implemented. And we are really, we believe that with your leadership, with the involvement of the United States administration, we will reach that goal. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, this will happen, definitely. I can reach over. Do you want to just press them over to me? Sure. Let me have them. And I just wanted to give you each. These are your signed agreements. And we'll make sure that you follow through. We'll make sure you follow through. Yeah. We'll make sure that you follow through. Okay, that's for you. Thank you. And we have one other thing that we're going to give, that we give to special people only. It's a coin.
Thank you.
And I hope you do that. I'm going to give you a second one for your leader.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
And likewise, we'll do that. These are serious coins. You don't want to lose them. You'll be very. I think that your reporter from Africa should get one. What do you think? Is she allowed? I think. Yes. Are the reporters okay with it? Brian, yes? Darling, that's for you. Okay? You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I heard you do a great job in covering everything. Thank you.
And Mr. President, we actually have the pictures that you took earlier
Oh,
of
let
the
me
foreign
see
ministers
that.
here already.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Let me see that.
They're in this folder right here, sir.
Okay, this one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, they look better than me. I don't like it. I don't like it. That's beautiful. That's very good. We have a good photographer. Beautiful. That's great. You better, I'll tell you better do the job here. We're going to come down hard. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. So we'll put them in. That's for you.
I can do that.
Okay.
That's for you.
This is for the Congo.
And what is it?
For the Congo.
Yes.
The peace.
Okay. Let's see, do we have two of them? I think so. He wouldn't give us one. He would have made a big mistake. Isn't that nice? That's for you. That's for you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And you're all set, and this is for you. You're going to get this? Good. Might as well hold it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. On the subject, sir.
Why not? Why not Canada, by the way?
Why?
I mean,
Because this is about a different subject right now. This is right now actually a much more important subject. We just ended a war that was going on for 30 years where 6 million people died. So don't ask me a trade question on Canada.
Mr. President, Kara Castronova from Lindell TV. Now that your administration, and congratulations, has secured peace in Africa to a bloody, horrific war that's gone on for decades and no other president could do it, do you think the mainstream media will finally...
I'm telling you. But you're right. No other president could do it. They tried, and they didn't even try, I don't think. I actually don't think they tried. Do you think Biden tried? He didn't know he was alive.
Do you think the mainstream media will finally give you credit where credit is due?
No, the media will never give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's why I'm here. The people didn't give me. That's why we're here in a landslide. We got all 7 states. We won the popular vote. So the media won't give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's more important to me.
You're going to go down as a peacemaker. You're also going to go down with the president who had 0 border crossings in May. You secured the border most than anybody has ever done. But I don't know if you know this. You're on track right now to have the lowest murder rate in history in this country. And I think a lot largely go to the fact we closed down the border. If you want to comment on that, you might go down as the lowest murder rate in U.S. history.
Yeah, I saw that the other day, and it's an honor. I mean, and that's really even better because, we've taken a lot of illegals into the country through the Biden administration that are murderers, 11,888 to be exact. And many of them are now gone. We got rid of them. They're back where they belong. But so it's a great honor. If you took that out, the numbers would be even better. They've created a lot of problems.
You truth social earlier about getting money to the air traffic controllers and the big, beautiful bill, which hopefully, praise God, we get this thing signed. What does that mean to that industry that have been suffering the last couple of years, quite a decade of being underfunding, and how that changed the safety of air travel?
Well, they've underfunded the airports for years, and I started the process of getting it completed in terms of the equipment necessary to land the planes, where the planes, like the helicopter accident with the plane, would have never happened if they had the right modern equipment. It would have been bells and whistles would have been going on all over the place. And I had that all set, but when I wasn't here, they totally dropped it. You had a terrible head of transportation. We have a very good one now, Sean Duffy. But you had Buttigieg, and he didn't know a damn thing. He'd ride to work on his bicycle. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He was terrible. So he totally dropped that. It was a project that should have happened, and I was all set. But we had a very sad experience with the voting, and so we didn't get to do that. But now I'm doing it, and we're going to have a great system. And it's funded partially by the bill. It's the initial funding is by the bill, and then it gets to be funded. The rest of it comes a little bit later as we build it out. But we're going to build out the best in the world. We have the best companies in the world. A couple of countries have very good systems. In fact, I noticed when I was landing, my pilot often would use the system of another country, and I said, "What are you doing that for?" He said, "The United States system is so bad." So we have the best companies that do that in the world bidding. You have Raytheon, you have IBM, you have a lot of different companies bidding, and we'll get the best one, the best system for the best price. And they're going to go to town and give us a system that will be better than any other system in the world. And you won't have planes bunking into each other at 35,000 feet.
Mr. President, on the subject of peace deals, how close are you and your administration to a deal in terms of Gaza ceasefire right now?
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza, he's asking about. And we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to. I mean, you have to. We're, in theory, not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying. And I look at those crowds of people that have no food, no anything, and we're the ones that are getting it there. Some of it's being taken by some bad people, once you give it and you give it out, and they're supposed to be taking care of the people, and they end up stealing the food and selling it. But we have a pretty good system now. But so we're helping with that. You see the lines of people that just get one meal essentially. But it's too bad other countries aren't helping out. Nobody's helping out. We're doing that because I think we have to on a humanitarian basis. Like this, we didn't have to get involved in Africa, but we did because we thought it was. I've been reading, like JD said, he's from much of his life he's been just seeing this about this brutal war, and it actually got a lot of publicity because of the level of brutality. Right? It was nobody's ever seen anything like it, and to be involved in that, I consider this the most important of my conferences today. We just had a great Supreme Court victory today, and everybody would say that was big, but we're talking about saving thousands and probably millions of lives here. This is more important than anything. So it's great, but we're working on Gaza, trying to get it taken care of. And again, a lot of food has been sent there, and other countries throughout the world should be helping also.
And on another conflict that I know you've been working on, sir, is it true that you have reached out with a letter to North Korea's Kim Jong-un?
Well, if there is a conflict, I get along with him very, very well, and we'll get the conflict solved with North Korea. I've had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I've gotten along with him really great, so we'll see what happens. But somebody's saying there's a potential conflict. I think we'll work it out if there is. It wouldn't involve us, but again, we're very far away from a lot of these places that we're solving problems with. But I enjoy doing it, I like doing it, and it's the right thing to do, and we have an ability to get it done, so we're solving things that we didn't have a lot to do. Serbia, Kosovo, I told you, we solved a potential disaster. I can tell you that some of the countries that you're not going to hear about, but some countries that were ready to go to war with their neighbor are not going to go to war with their neighbor, and that's a great thing. We have a number of them. But I'm very happy about India and Pakistan because they actually have nuclear weapons. When you talk about Iran, they were trying to get it, but India has nuclear weapons, Pakistan has nuclear weapons, high-level nuclear weapons both, and getting that solved was really great. We did it through trade, so it was a great thing.
Mr. President, when it comes to nuclear weapons, Mr. President, are you concerned that the Iranians may have some enriched uranium at Pickaxe Mountain?
No. The last thing they're thinking about right now is enriched uranium. They're not thinking about what they want to do is they want to get back to life, and they do want to meet me, and we'll do that quickly. We're going to do it quickly. We'll have a meeting.
They said this morning that they don't want to meet with the U.S. Were they telling you something different in private?
They may say that to you. Don't you think they want to meet me? Don't you think we have sanctions on there that they can't do anything? Wouldn't you think that they want to meet me? They're not stupid people, but they went through a lot, and they suffered, and so did Israel. Israel suffered greatly. It was a nasty 12 days, and we'll see what happens.
Are you considering sending Patriot missiles to Ukraine? Have you made up your mind about that yet?
I may. Go ahead.
On this context, Mr. President, there are a few unanswered questions that remain in this deal. For example, will Rwanda, on this conflict, for example, will Rwandan troops pull back from parts of the DR Congo? And also, will the M23 rebel group be allowed to remain in parts of eastern DR Congo? Do you have any answer to those
Well, let me ask you that question. You want to answer that one? It sounds like an interesting question for you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. In the agreement we signed, we have taken the concept of operation for the neutralization of the FDLR, which is a vicious genocidal movement, and the lifting of Rwandan defensive measures. So this was already signed last year in November, so we will implement it. This concept of operation to do both things, to neutralize this movement, which has been destabilizing Rwanda for many years, and to lift our defensive measures. As for the M23, in the agreement also, we have decided to rely on the Doha talks, because they are currently talks between the AFC M23 and the DRC government to have a peace deal also that will complement the Washington peace agreement. So both things are taken care of.
Thank you. Mr. President, will the United States be enforcing this agreement or taking
We're going to be working with them to get it enforced. They can enforce their own agreement, but we'll be putting a lot of pressure on to make sure it gets enforced. The two people in this room are very, very capable people, and they'll get it done. I think they'll get it done. They love their. One thing I learned very quickly is how much you love your country and you want to get it done. And they know it has to get done, otherwise bad things happen. But I think we're well beyond that. Other presidents should have done what I'm doing right now. They never did it. I don't think they ever tried. I don't think it's like they couldn't do it. I don't think they ever tried. And if they did, they wouldn't be able to do it anyway.
On the president,
Yes, thank you. Mr. President, can you share with us what can happen if one of the parts violate this peace agreement? Because we don't want war to come back to
Well,
DRC.
I'd rather not say. I would just say that there are big penalties if they violate, and they're not going to. I don't think they will violate. I think they mean it, but we have very severe penalties, financial and otherwise. Okay.
On the president, circling back to your Truth Social post on Canada specifically, why are you deciding to end trade talks with Canada, and what rate are you looking to set?
So Canada put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. You know, we hear Canada, we have a great relationship with the people of Canada, but it's been very difficult. And they put a charge, and they were a little bit early, we found out about it. So, and we have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it, but they did something with our tech companies today trying to copy Europe. You know, they copied Europe. It's not going to work out well for Europe either, and it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. And so I said we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act. Okay?
Is there anything Canada can do to change your mind about this situation?
Well, no, they put a tax on companies that were American companies that they shouldn't. A very severe tax. And yeah, I guess they could remove it. They will, but I don't really, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. We have all the cards. We have all the cards. You know, we do a lot of business with Canada, but relatively little. They do most of their businesses with us. And when you have that circumstance, you treat people better. They've had farmers that are getting like 300, 400, 200% in tariffs. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We have cases, you don't read this and the people don't report, but they charge us 400% on some dairy products. 400%. Nobody writes that. It's not fair to our farmers, and we've got to protect our farmers.
Sir, you just, sir,
Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Mr. President, you mentioned how much of a rate cut we would do to the interest on the debt. Earlier today, Director Pulte was on CNBC talking about how he suggested Powell should resign. Any comments on whether or not Powell should step down? I know you've been.
Well, I don't have a comment. I'd love him to resign if he wanted to. He's done a lousy job. Look, if you were there, you'd say, well, you know, the United States is doing well. They have no inflation. And if they do get inflation in a year or two, we'll start raising the rates. We'll get rid of the inflation, you know, and do other things. Biden had the worst inflation in the history of our country. 19%, but I think it was much higher than that. Frankly, they say 19%. I say, I think it's a lot higher than that. And we have almost no inflation now. We've done a great job in a short period of time. Energy prices are way down. Gasoline now is down to close to $2 in a lot of places. A couple of places I see it even broke. It's like $1.98 a gallon. We've done a great job on inflation and honestly, pretty much everything else. I think it's very sad the way people act. You know, you have a guy in there that with the stroke of a pen could lower interest rates and save us hundreds of billions of dollars a year. But he's a stupid person. You know, it's very interesting. I'm not sure if he doesn't understand it, because you should be able to understand it. It's sort of 101 economics, but I'm not sure of that. But think of it, with the stroke of a pen, he talks about costs. We can save $600 billion. maybe even, these are nice numbers for you, right? $900 billion, $950 billion by lowering interest rates. And it's really just more of a paper movement. It's not like you're not cutting anything, you're not cutting jobs, it's just interest rates. And we're number 40 or 44, number 45. Some places that you wouldn't believe that, I don't want to be disparaging, but they pay a lower interest rate than the United States of America. And without us, everything blows up. We sort of control the world in that sense. But we have a guy that's just a stubborn mule and a stupid person that is making a big mistake. He's making a mistake. And it lasts for years because when you do the debt. Now, I've instructed my people not to do any debt beyond 9 months or so. Get this guy out. And whoever is in there will lower rates. If I think somebody's going to keep the rates where they are or whatever, I'm not going to put them in. I'm going to put somebody that wants to cut rates. There are a lot of them out there. And I said this morning, a lot of the business shows today were saying, Trump is right. He should be cutting rates. Think of it. We have a great country. We're making a lot of money. We're taking in billions of dollars in tariffs. We have $15 trillion of money that wants to be invested here, which is a record. In 2 months, it breaks any record that we've ever had for a whole year, and not even close. 15 trillion, and it's going to be much higher than that. That's after essentially 2 months, because we've been doing it for about 2 months, 2.5 months. $15 trillion breaks every record in the book. There's never been anything like this. We have factories moving in, we have car plants moving in, we have everyone wants to be part of the United States. And as I told you, and I say it to everybody, when I was in the Middle East, the King of Saudi Arabia and Qatar and UAE, all great leaders, they have all great leaders. All three of them said, you got the hottest country in the world, and you did it in. At that time, I was there for 4 months because we got back a little while ago. But everybody says it, not only them. We have the hottest country in the world right now. The only thing is we have a Fed chairman that is, he doesn't get it. And you could have substantially low. Like if we cut him 2 points, would save more than think of it, more than $600 billion just because you cut. But you can't go out to the market and say, well, we have a guy that's got us at 4% or 4.5%, and we want to pay 2% or 1%. I think we should be paying 1% right now. And we're paying more because we have a guy who's, suffers from, I think, Trump derangement syndrome, if you want to know the truth. But he's not good for our country.
The president of UVA.
No,
Did you push
not
for the
you,
president?
not you.
A related question on banking. There have been reports, Mr. President, that your administration is considering issuing an executive order about debanking, which is the practice of banks denying services based on people's political beliefs or industries such as crypto, people involved in that. Would you be open or interested to sign such an executive order targeting debanking, and what might?
Well, I think the debankers, I think that banks, I can tell you because I've been a victim myself, because of my politics, that big banks were very nasty to us. And I actually think it was Biden's people that told them to be, because the one group of people that banks are afraid of are the regulators. They are petrified of the regulators. And I've seen the biggest banker. I can tell you, you see him on television all the time. If a regulator walked into the room, he gets all nervous and crazy. They're afraid of the regulators. And if the Biden people order the banks to be virtually closed, they can do anything they want. The regulators control the banks. It's not the president of the bank. The president of the bank is far less important to a bank than a regulator. And a regulator can put that bank out of business, just like bad prosecutors are very dangerous. We had a couple. I had deranged Jack Smith and some others. And we kicked their ass. But it was, it's a tough kind of a situation. Prosecutors are very dangerous. A great prosecutor is an amazing asset for a country. But a corrupt prosecutor, a bad prosecutor is very bad. Well, the regulators are the same thing. And when they tell the regulator to go and make life impossible for big banks or little banks, they really control it. So there is a lot of debanking. And they call it debanking, call it a lot of different names. Essentially, they make it impossible to do business. And those people are very bad and very dangerous, and they shouldn't be doing it.
On taxes, Mr. President, could you please explain how taxes would go up by 68% if the bill isn't passed? Where does that number come from?
Well, it comes from the fact that you have automatically the Trump cuts, which were the biggest cuts that we've ever had. Now, these cuts are even bigger. but from the last administration where the Trump cuts, it was a 5-year deal and it comes due. When you add that to the cuts that you already have and other things, it amounts, according to what they tell me, about 68%. That would mean you'd have a tax so that you know that the tax cuts that they got, the biggest tax cuts in our history, would immediately go up to that level. And that alone is a big chunk of the 68%. And then you have the other taxes that would accumulate. And they say that you'd have about a 68% tax increase.
Sir, you said a moment ago that it won't work out very well for Europe on trade. Does that mean you want to cut off those negotiations as well and just tell them what they should
No,
be
well,
doing?
they've been very tough. The European Union was formed in order to take advantage of the United States on trade. That was why they were formed. And they're nasty. They're very nasty. We have a good relationship. I'm dealing with Ursula right now and the group. But it's a very tough situation. They have been unbelievably bad to us. If you look at past precedents, they've treated them very badly. They're being very nice to me because I get it. I know the system, and we have the cards. We have the cards far more than they do. And they have not treated us well, and they're coming to us right now. You know, I said I was going to put on a 50% tariff. As soon as I said that, I put it out on Truth. As soon as I said that, they came to the table. They didn't want to come to the table. My people were telling me, Scott was telling me, and the whole group was telling me that not a good situation. They want to tap it down the line. They don't want to really deal. So I said, we're going to put a 50% tariff on you. And Howard, as you know, was very much involved, Lutnick, Commerce. And he said, they don't want to talk. As soon as I put that on, I was getting calls from them like, can we meet tomorrow? And the problem is they have a lot of very unfair taxes. They have a lot of taxes that you wouldn't put on, and they sue all our companies. They're constantly suing Apple and Google and all of these companies, and they're getting, in front of judges that essentially almost work for them. I guess they do work for them. They're European Union judges, and they're getting these crazy rewards. Apple was fined $17 billion, and others are being fined tremendous numbers of dollars. They're nasty people. And I don't want them affecting U.S. companies. I don't want that. If anybody's going to affect a U.S. company, I want it to be us. And if they're going to have to pay a penalty or a fine, let it be to us. So they've done this for a long time, for years, but they're very nasty. The European Union's very nasty, there's no question. But they'll learn not to be so nasty very soon. They know that. They know it's coming.
So you told us that Vladimir Putin reached out to you to help you with the Iran crisis.
He made some nice statements today. Did you see the statements?
I saw the statement.
Very nice. Vladimir Putin made some very nice statements today. Look, he respects our country again. He didn't respect it a year ago, I can tell you right now. But Putin respects our country. And President Xi of China respects our country. And Kim Jong-un they respect our country again. We were not a country that was respected just a year ago. We had a president that was incompetent. We had bad people circulating around this desk, this beautiful, resolute desk. They had, I guess, evil intentions. You couldn't be that stupid. I mean, they had evil intentions. But the world respects our country again. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.